say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
We didn't take a roll call of that.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Roll call.
Douglas Beebe,
I am here.
Andrew Brockway,
Here.
Kathy Buckley,
Here.
Shannon Drown, Michael Hagedorn,
Here.
Holden Layman,
Here.
Ed Marion,
Here.
Mark Sand,
Here.
Colleen Stone, Cameron Kuchar.
It's resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please? May I have a second? Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, pursuant to Robert's Rules of Orders, I'd like to make a motion to remove several things from the consent agenda. It doesn't require a second. I have a list if you'd like the list.
Is there, just out of curiosity, is there a reason why you didn't put that in so we could be aware of it ahead of time?
Because the agenda is 15 pages long, and we just got provided an update that maybe 3 minutes ago.
We have the agenda system.
Still making a
Yeah,
motion.
okay.
Andy is looking for a second.
It doesn't need a second, it's only
Okay.
made by one person. So the minutes I'd like to remove from the consent agenda, specifically 7/24/18. Page 4.
Andy, you need to be a lot louder. You can't hear me on that side.
The 7/24 minutes. The
Difficult to hear you. Could you speak up, please?
Is your microphone on?
I think it is. Yeah, it is. So the 7/24/18 minutes on page 4. It's not on the revised one.
Page 3. It's on page 3.
Page 3. Under C, appointment, rescinding Joseph Toloski's appointment. Next page, approving to change the appointment of Peter Villa as the boys varsity football assistant to that of Jeff Jolliser. Under O, the Finnerman agreement and appointment of Aaron Kelly. Under P, stipends, CSE and CPSE, Deborah Bruno and Terry Briette. B, transfer bid awards under subsection C. And I'd like clarification on the proposed executive session to discuss a particular individual, as I don't believe that that complies with the open meetings law.
Clarification for, can I provide clarification? Can I provide clarification for C, or 7, excuse me? Let's, go to
7, what section?
page 15 and 16.
Section 7 and 18 and 7 in the list.
316, resolve that the Board of Education enter executive session, discuss the employment history of particular persons. The superintendent's evaluation is on the agenda. We may or may not be doing that. Okay. Was that okay, Claire? Is that okay to stay on, or are you still making your motion?
No, that's fine.
Can we go through that again, just so we make sure everyone knows exactly what you're talking about? And go a little slower this time.
This one's this one.
So number 5 on page 316A, minutes as presented, 7/24/18.
And you're looking to remove the July 24th meetings.
Yes.
Just for clarification, does he need to give a reason why, or can he just make the request?
I don't believe it's elaborated.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Joining us today is Amanda Jackson from the Harris Speech firm. Douglas Gerhardt is not here today. Amanda is here to help us guide through these.
Is she on the agenda for tonight?
She doesn't need to be.
I don't need to be on the agenda.
Where's the law that says that you don't have to be on the agenda?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Under what section? You don't think it's appropriate for the entire board to know that you're going to be here ahead of time to prepare questions when your client is the Board of Education?
Yes, my client is Board of Education, and I was asked to be here by the superintendent. And typically, that's how we deal with boards. We don't respond to individual requests by board members.
So you don't think that it was appropriate to notify the board that you were going to be here in case we had questions individually as a board?
You can certainly ask me now.
It would have been nice to have advance notice.
For clarification, after the last meeting and a number of laws that were bantered around and the procedures that weren't followed, including Robert's Rules of Order, I thought it would be best to serve this body to have counsel here for the foreseeable future, because I think some of the questions that other board members may have been presented with about laws may have put them in an unfair position. And I think that a school attorney can help us navigate and stay out of trouble, stay out of problems. And I presented that to the board leadership, and they agreed.
And just clarification too, I think it may help to have that information, Andy, but as board practice, as long as I've been on the board for 8 years, it's never been customary to tell the board that they're going to be here. It's courtesy that they're here, and it's great, and everybody has the opportunity to ask questions.
So we're spending $200 an hour on a law firm, and if we have questions, we're unprepared as a board to ask questions. So we're basically, the rest of the board's at a disadvantage because the board president and vice president know that the attorney is going to be here, but the rest of the board doesn't.
You have every opportunity to ask and follow up questions
Certainly.
afterwards.
Absolutely. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email.
I don't think it's appropriate if I have a question that's a simple thing to be charged $200 an hour for.
That's your perspective, but our engagement letter with your district says otherwise.
Page 4.
Can we stay on minutes just for a second, if it's all right? So there was a recording of the last meeting that was made, and it was actually, the recording was, these recorders were not present at the meeting, and prior to that, to our realization that these recorders weren't here, Board Member Brockway notified everybody that he was recording the meeting. You were never notified during the meeting that, actually we stopped at one point and proceeded, and Andy said that he was going to record the rest of the open session. So there's some confusion now as to whether we have a 4-minute or so recording or whether there's a complete recording of the meeting. And the board would like, and council would like, that to ask Mr. Brockway in his capacity of a board member if he could hand over his phone so that we could obtain the full recording of the meeting.
And I would say that the recording's already on the board drive, and I would also say that the minutes are inaccurate, and you could hear Kathy Buckley and Doug Gerhardt on the recording that I could play right now, saying that I was doing it as my own personal choice, and I was not doing it, according to Ms. Buckley, in my capacity as a board member. So therefore, I wasn't doing it. And the commissioner and the Committee on Open Government have both said that you can tape it in your individual capacity. I didn't act as a board member, so therefore I declined to hand over my cell phone.
Okay, so I'm
And
going to
I'd like to clarify my position on this. It's not about a power play, Andy. It is about protecting the district and potential liabilities of the future. The district needs to make a recording. I'm sorry, did you just text again?
No, I didn't, Kathy. And I
Are
didn't know
you
that you had.
Again?
No, I'm not recording again.
Okay.
If I
Just
was,
to be
does
clear,
it
you're
matter
not
if I was?
recording?
What's that?
Just
You're
to be
not
clear, you're not
recording right now?
recording your capacity as a board member?
No, I am not recording in my capacity as a board member.
Are you recording at all? Because you're sitting on the deck at the table as a board member.
And so, Mr. Marin, I've seen you play with your cell phone a couple times. Is anyone else tape recording? No, I'm not tape recording this meeting.
All right, so to go back to what I was saying, it is about protecting the long-term liability of our district. If the district records the full recording from your phone, there is substantially less liability than you handing over a recording. We don't know, and I'm not saying it isn't, but we don't know if it's from beginning to end, if it's been altered, if something's been dropped. If the school records it, we know exactly what's on there. So it's not about an argument or being obstinate. It is about protection of the district and the document that you created and how it impacts the district.
In your own words, you said that I did it in my individual capacity, and if you
I
review...
do not agree with that.
Do you want to hear it?
Then what you have is a partial recording of us. It's probably me asking a question.
No, it's you responding to Douglas Gerhardt saying, no, he's not recording it in his capacity as a board member. It's his own personal choice, is what you said.
I totally disagree. If you're sitting at this table, if you are participating in the meeting, if you are voting and have a discussion and are asking questions and are here for roll call, you are acting as a board member.
Okay, so make a legal motion and you can get it that way, because I'm not handing over my cell phone.
So just to be clear, you were saying that you're not handing over the
I'm
minutes.
saying unless you can provide me with legal advice from the Committee on Open Government or the Department of
Certainly
Education,
exists.
then I'd like to see it, and if you can give it to me, then I will give it to you.
That's a question. Does it matter? You've already turned it over in the team drive, right?
Well, I did, but Ms. Buckley is insinuating in more or less words that I could have altered it, which I will state that I didn't, and I uploaded the entire recording to Mr. Lambert on the Google Drive.
Can we just, all right, this is me speaking as Ed Marion board member. All right, so, like a lot of things in our district, as we continue to grow the district, I think in general we should function on improving the district. Are we all perfect? No. It has never been the entire practice, and certainly not the intent, at least from my perspective, the last meeting, that we needed recording, because usually when we're doing interviews and hiring, it's just, we get in here, we go straight into executive session, and we come out and it's done. So even during your tenure, I know that anytime we had interviews, we didn't record. So maybe we should start and have the recording stuff ready every time, just to make sure that then if we have to, we will. I think that would be good practice. So I'd like to kind of get away from squabbling and all the legal nonsense, but let's focus on the objective. So if the objective is to improve our transparency, let's make sure we have a recording system set up and ready to go going forward. All right?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
just that if it is a district record, whether or not you said you were making it in your capacity, in your personal capacity or board member, you sat at this table and voted as a board member, so it is a district record, and the entirety of it needs to be turned over.
And I'm asking you to provide me with a decision, a legal decision.
I certainly don't
Backing
have
that
those.
up.
I certainly don't have those off the top of my head.
Upload it to the district portal or send it to someone that can, and I will read it, and then I will turn it over if that's what the decision says.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that Douglas included those laws in his emails. So I would not be surprised if Andy doesn't already have it, he just doesn't have it accessible at the moment.
No, I've read them, and I know what they say.
All right, so we'll clarify that.
And the other thing is, in all honesty, is he's very busy with his practice. We have Gary here, he's here. It takes one step out of his responsibility and time away from his practice. It would be to his time advantage to actually take care of it now.
So you're saying to play it and let Gary record it?
I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
Hold on.
And actually, I do have two Committee on Open Government sites, if you want to look at the opinion, 2803 and 5384.
And what?
5384.
2803 and 5384.
5384.
The issue.
And it's my understanding that Douglas did call Bob Freeman on this issue last week and clarified with you that it was a district record.
And I've also reached out to Mr. Freeman, and I respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
So there's just for clarity, there's a belief that the current record that's handed over is incomplete. There's
What makes you think it's incomplete?
belief that the meeting lasted more than 4 minutes and 23 seconds. So we would know more if the recording device, we may know more if the recording device, we may know with certainty if the recording device was handled.
Why don't we play it right now?
That's not really what we're asking.
Why not? If you think it's incomplete, if I push play and I play it through the end, how does that not prove that there's something missing?
There could be, I'll let somebody else come up with we may have a 4 minute and 23 second recording. If we all listen to it right here, we may say that that it's missing components of the meeting. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the board. I think I'd rather have it handed over, and then we could just move on with the business of having the board meeting.
Okay, would you like to hand over your cell phone to me?
That's not.
That has
Isn't
nothing
it?
to
No,
do with
he's
this.
conducting school business on his cell phone, which is
Okay,
exactly
that's
what
not-
you're accusing me
that's
of
not
doing.
the- All right, so let's resolve this. Let's continue with the meeting, please, and I request that we address this after the meeting in some fashion, and maybe you can send some information forward to request it legally if we have to. I don't know, but I don't want it to take up the whole meeting. All right, so what else was it you were asking?
The page 416C appointment, rescind Joseph Tolaski's appointment.
Down here at the bottom, okay. All right. Next one's on what page?
What page?
It was on page 4 of 16 on the bottom C.
Yeah, right.
Page 8 of 16, O, the Finnerman agreement and appointment of Aaron Kelly.
16.
think that was it was on my other.
You had requested the stipends be removed and the bid awards be removed.
Yes, thank you.
You already mentioned, I believe you mentioned a second ago, the bill being removed with Jeff Oliver. If you hadn't, Joanne's bringing that to my attention.
What page are those on?
I just wrote down what you said. I didn't have it in here somewhere. I'm not sure what page.
The problem is I have an updated agenda and I read notes on my one that was earlier.
That's all right, just give me a second to find what we're talking about.
Should be the same order, right?
So page 3, number minutes, 7/24/18.
Yep.
Right.
Page 4, bottom of the page, number C, rescind the appointment of Joseph Kloski.
Right.
Page 6, top of the page, where it says approved exchange appointment of Pete Bill as the boys varsity coach, football coach, right at the top, underneath the table.
Underneath the grid.
Yeah,
Right.
under the grid.
That's what I can find.
Page 8, number O, the final agreement, appointment of Aaron Kelly.
And then the other one's on page 9 at the top, approve a stipend in the amount of $5,465 grant funded.
And then under the financial section, award of bids, the bid award and rejection, which is on page 12, right underneath the transfers, it's that whole page, and it ends at the top of the next page.
And actually that didn't have the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, section 6.
I would not move to remove that from the consent agenda because it didn't have the information in the old agenda for the bids and the total, so I'm fine with that.
Now it has, okay.
So 9 stays.
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
So being that this is first, let's talk over here. He does a motion, but he doesn't need a second. But it would have to be a board resolution, so we would have to put it to a vote.
So, yeah, after we do the consent agenda, then we go through each one of the ones that were moved, taken out, and do those individually as resolutions.
Amy, is that what you're proposing?
Well, I would defer to legal counsel on what the procedure is.
And I'll defer to your guys' regular course of business.
That's usually what we do. We pull it out, we do the whole consent agenda, and then individually discuss the ones that were moved.
That's the best way to
We
do
did
it.
talk about that when we went to consent agendas. Yeah, we did.
So Robert's rules says that it's just moved off of the consent agenda, and then the board chair reads the items that are taken off the consent agenda and they're addressed individually.
So that was our discussion. All right, so I guess we move to all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All in favor?
No.
Noes?
No.
Do you want to do a roll, spin off the roll call? All right, because I'm not getting any all in favors. I've got one no.
Okay,
Kathy, you don't need to vote on removing it from the consent agenda. It's not debatable.
It's not,
I
that's what she's
understand
doing.
I'm confused.
She's, okay, so we entered discussion and you pulled out, which you can do, right? And now she's got to finish the resolution
For the
to-
rest.
for the rest of it. So she's asking for all in favor as it is now.
Okay.
So,
All right.
As it is with everything removed.
yes.
Okay.
So, all right, so for clarification, no all in favors, well, maybe one. And I had one no, but the rest of us didn't vote. So are we gonna do a roll call vote, or do we do the resolution over again? This is brand new.
Can we just do all in favor again and show hands? That easy?
To move on to continue with the meeting again.
Yes.
We're approving the new agenda as a new agenda.
So we can either approve the new agenda, or we can deny the new agenda. If we deny the new agenda, I think it goes back to its original form, I assume. If we approve the new agenda, then we go with the agenda the way that Andy has proposed.
But do we
The
talk,
motion form.
can we talk about what's being removed if we approve the new agenda? And when does the discussion take?
Anytime, it can come in anytime, because when I read the resolution, I ask for discussion or questions.
When I look just for process, when I look at the items, they're generally people related. So those would be executive session discussions. I believe they may not go in that direction, but I would be very, very careful in public session talking about the different people associated with these different items.
Versus the position, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what the
No, that's,
Can I ask you a question, Andrew? Was this stuff not in the original posted agenda, and that's why you want to take it off?
No, because I wanted to talk about each one of them individually, and you can't on a consent agenda, and you can't vote in the negative on a consent agenda on a specific item, so I asked for them to be removed for that reason.
Well, actually, we did discuss a process. We utilized the process because on the consent agenda, you move the group, a little chunk of the agenda, and then we asked for discussion. You could drill into the particular item. You could pull. Right.
that's what we're doing now, essentially. We just do it all ahead of time.
Yeah, but you could also do it during the course of a regular
Yes,
meeting.
you could. You could do it during the course of the meeting.
But it's not, I'm not saying that this new approach is bad. I'm just saying that we've always been able to discuss individual items on the agenda. When, Kathy goes motion, second, discussion. And you don't have to discuss every item, you can discuss one. On that.
But if you want us to vote negative on a particular item, we're going to be voting on the whole consent agenda, so we couldn't do it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I would agree, or you could remove it. Right, you could remove the item and then vote on it. Exactly.
So I'm here, maybe it'll help others too. So if we vote to move on, then when we get to that particular item that's been stricken, then Andy has an opportunity to discuss his concerns.
No. We'll vote the whole, what's left of the consent agenda section.
Yeah.
We'll do that entirely with the pieces that we pulled out of it, and then we go back to the ones that we pulled out.
Okay, so we'll do it at the end.
At the end of that.
Because their personnel, a majority of them are personnel related, we will have to do that in executive session and then come out and give a resolution. All right.
So we'll still have to vote on it after he has said his piece.
Yes. All right. So I will start this resolution again. All right. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following agenda as amended. Thank you. Motion, please.
Motion.
Second? I'm sorry, did you catch the motion? Maybe the motion, okay. Second, please.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes?
No.
No.
No. Did everyone vote? No? No. No. No.
Why don't we just for clarity, just pour it on the board, so we
Okay.
accurate.
That what I thought was when we
Accuracy
needed
right
to
now
do a
is
roll
better.
call vote.
Douglas Beatty,
No.
Andrew Brockway,
Yes.
Kathy Buckley,
No.
Shannon Brown,
No.
Michael Hagedorn,
Yes.
Holden Lehman,
Yes.
Ed Marin,
Yes.
Mark Zan,
Yes.
Colleen Stone.
Just as a point, I don't know that we can vote to not have it come out. We can. So I don't know if the voting makes a difference.
It doesn't.
You still have to approve the agenda.
You just have to, but we did have to put the agenda, yes. Okay.
You don't know what would happen, and we'll look at, in all my training, I've never been exposed to what would happen if the board didn't approve the agenda, so I'll look into that in case that happens.
That's a good question.
All right. We have a set aside 10 minutes for public comment. I'm sorry, did this resolution pass?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Public comment. We've set aside 10 minutes for public comment. We'd like to see if anyone at this time would like to approach the board. If you would like to approach the board, you're more than welcome to do so at this time. Seeing that we have no one that would like to approach the board on this, at this moment, we will move to our presentations. Our first presenter is Gary Lambert, and he'll be presenting the technology plan.
So I wanted to go over with the Board of Education prior to adoption what district's instructional technology.
I'd just like to make a note that our attorney's texting at the board table.
I don't have any similar prohibitions like you do. I'm not a member of this board, but council. Please go ahead.
But aren't we paying you to be here right now? And your response is to text people?
So as I was saying, I believe as I was saying,
Sorry.
that's okay. We're obliged as a district to have an instructional technology plan in place, and those plans cover a 3-year time period. Our current plan was adopted almost 3 years ago, and it's due for adoption and approval by state ed in October of 2018. So I wanted to just run through very quickly with the board what's involved in a technology plan, why we have it, and then solicit any questions from you, if I may. So what is a technology plan? Basically, the state ed, New York State Ed has a set of guidelines for what an instructional technology plan should include, and they mirror very closely what the Board of Regents has for its vision for what school districts should be providing for students to begin with. But in this case, it is very specifically aligned with technology goals and aspirations. So that's the requirement portion of it. But why do we have one? I mean, that's really a more important question. We have APPR because we have to, but we do evaluations because it's good practice to help make teaching better. So we have a district instructional technology plan because we have to, but why do we really have it? And I would suggest that it's like a navigational chart, that a sailor doesn't leave the shore without knowing what the waters are going to look like that they're navigating through, maybe hidden obstacles below the surface of the water, where currents are, where there may be sandbars, et cetera, et cetera. So an instructional technology plan is a guide, it's a map that helps a district navigate those waters that are 3 years out to the best of its ability. And that's probably an awful metaphor, but it's the only one that I could think of at the time, so we'll go with it for now. And these are the things that have to be in a district's technology plan. And when you see these, what I hope you internalize as you see them are things that this district is already doing. But these are the requirements for a technology plan. First of all, we have to have a vision and a goal for technology integration. And I would argue that for the last 4 years, we've been doing a phenomenal job at doing just that with the board's support. The second piece is that we need to provide technology-enhanced learning environments for our students. We've done that in a variety of ways through alternative furniture, through our one-to-one initiative, through our interactive flat panel displays, through enhanced Wi-Fi, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a secondary piece. Again, these are requirements, but we were already doing these things, and we were already on the path before state ed ever asked this of us. The third thing is we have to increase equitable access for digital resources. Again, our one-to-one program extends all the way down to the second grade for one-to-one, and we still provide access in pre-K, K, and first grade. So we are increasing every year access for our students to digital resources. Again, something we would do even if it wasn't what the state was requiring of us. Fourth thing is, and right above your heads you see a Wi-Fi access point with antennas sticking down. That new access point was through federal funds, through the federal E-rate program. We're doing those types of programs and making sure that our network is robust enough to handle the traffic that we're putting on it, both through outside visitors, vendors, during our interviews, our students, our staff, parents. So we're doing that too. And then the last part, and actually I believe this should be the first part, is we're providing high quality professional development for our staff so that they understand how to effectively use those tools and resources that we are providing for them. Without that, you're simply handing devices out. You're not providing any real means or plan for staff members to make effective use of them. So those are the elements that are required to be in there, and I can tell you that they've been in there since 1997, when the first technology plan that I was ever involved with was adopted by the board, and every subsequent technology plan since then has had these elements as well. So what does the process look like? Well, the process essentially was gathering together admin, staff members, teachers, parents, community members, and students for our stakeholder committees. Members research best practices. We have gone to state, local, regional, and national conferences so that we could inform ourselves about current trends and best practices involving technology integration. In fact, many of our board members here at this table have been to these conferences with us so that they can bring back the same information that we do within our department. We've shared guidelines, the same guidelines that I just put up there, but others as well. We use those to build upon our previous instructional technology plan, and we solicited comments and input for the proposed plan, and many very valuable comments and pieces of input were collected. We had 2 formal committee meetings. One was in March, and the last one was just this July. Excuse me. And from that, we have a draft proposal of the instructional technology plan that will then, although it's not required, I do need to say this, it's not required by state ed to be adopted by the Board of Education. We believe it's best practice that the board does adopt it so that it is part of the entire district's initiative. It's not just one committee, even though it's made up of members of the Board of Education as well. And I'm sorry I didn't put that on there, that Board of Education should have been on. I said admin, staff, you're all community members anyway, so you're included in there, but it is important to highlight that board members were, points off, right, are a part of that. So adopting it as a board is, I consider it an important piece of it, but the next part of the process would be, after adoption by the board, submission to New York State Education Department through their business portal. I've actually already begun that process. Until it's finalized by the superintendent, it doesn't get sent anywhere, but just to get a head start on it, I've been putting pieces and parts into them. Then it goes to an initial review by, actually it's Capital Region BOCES, but the NARIC. They will review it for any potential items that might be flagged by a reviewer at State Ed. Then it's reviewed by State Ed and then approved by State Ed. And the timeline for that is it's due in October. They ask for it in August, so that gives NARIC time to review all of the plans that they are responsible for, and State Ed's reviewers time. In case there are items that have to go back, and it's very rare, I have not personally, in the 4 technology plans that I've been a part of, seen anything that we've submitted get kicked back. In fact, I've had Roxanne Pombrio, who's an assistant director for NARIC, said that our technology plans, by and large, are above and beyond what the state asks of us. So we're providing them way more narrative, way more information than they even require. So I would be surprised if in this 4th iteration it gets kicked back for any reason. But that's what it is, why we have it, what's happening next, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this. I hope that this document has been shared with you already. If it's not, and it was my fault for doing it, I will make sure to do that after following the board meeting. But It's a very non-controversial document. It is what it is. So, any questions? I appreciate the opportunity to explain. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Michael Johnson. He's our middle school principal, assistant principal, and he will be speaking on candle care.
So one of the benefits of being the assistant principal of the middle school is that I get to be on a lot of different things and do a lot of different things. During my 3 years here at Beekmantown, I've been able to participate in one of the partnerships with the Clinton County Child Advocacy Center. Michelle Gregory has been the director of that for the last few years. She recently took on the role of Director of Community Services, but she's still been pretty in close contact with us. We do that. Part of that partnership is the forensic interview room that we have over in the district office. So that's kind of the connection. I was asked, Beekmantown was asked to participate in a conversation about handoff care, and so I went as a representative of the district late last year. And we didn't really have much information about it, just that it was a new program that they wanted to try to implement. So each county in New York State has a child advocacy center. The Albany County area has implemented this program for a couple of years, but we would be the first district in this area to implement the handoff care program. And it essentially comes out of the West Virginia Center for Children's Justice. They did a study back in 2012 that really looked at incidents that children are experienced to or exposed to in the home environment that can have a negative impact on their academic well-being, their social well-being, and their ability to graduate and be healthy, productive adults. So really the whole purpose of the program is to really look at some of those traumatic exposures that children see at home. And really kind of making a link with law enforcement. A lot of times we don't always have that communication with law enforcement of things that are going on or stressful incidences that kids may be a part of. So one of the beautiful parts of this is that our board goals that were adopted really targets that social emotional learning. And this is part of goal number 4, to engage the community in what trauma-informed school looks like and provides for its students, teachers, and families. And this really looks, and we just got the agenda for gearing up the administrative kind of day before school to get everybody excited to talk about all the new upcoming things. And this section, the adverse childhood experiences, was probably an hour worth of time that we were going to be spending on that. So they consider it a pretty big topic. I think Beekmantown has been committed to the mental health and wellness of our students for the last couple of years. And so I think this fits along nicely with helping to identify possible causes of why kids are struggling at school, why they may not be graduating, why we see some of these behaviors. So adverse childhood experiences are kind of divided up into 3 categories. So the first is abuse. So that could be physical, emotional, sexual abuse, neglect, whether it's physical or emotional, and then household dysfunction. So that's if you live with siblings or parents that have mental illness, if you have a relative that was incarcerated, if you're exposed to domestic violence at home, any substance abuse, and divorce. So there's research that at young ages, divorce can have an impact on children's childhood development. So the
the premise of the ACES curriculum is to kind of give students quizzes and kind of gauge where kids are at. I think the Handle with Care program really helps us just identify pieces of information. I think digging into some of this stuff is a couple years down the road. I think it's a progression. But when you look at the number of ACEs a kid has, so the questionnaire is anywhere between 10 and 15 questions. So if they identify as having 1, 2, or 3, you can see the risk for negative outcomes rises quite substantially. So the idea that these negative things can happen to kids, and then they walk into school and we expect them to sit in a classroom for 8 hours and learn, this just kind of helps give us perspective and kind of points out different experiences that children may have when they come into our classrooms each day. So, the Messina School District, this is kind of how it got to our area. The Messina School District heard about this, and they have a homeschool coordinator, and they reached out to the Messina Police Department, which is the town police, and they kind of created this partnership. And the chief of Messina Police and the homeschool coordinator of Messina came and did a presentation in November for the Clinton County Child Advocacy Center. So basically, it's a connection with law enforcement. So I'll kind of go through how it will work. So let's say the police are called to a house in the evening, and it's a drug bust or it's a domestic violence situation. And the adult was arrested or charged with some sort of drug or violent crime. And then they kind of drill down, there's 2 children in the home. And so they identify those children and they say, hey, those kids go to Beekmantown. So the New York State Police that are responding to that house completes a form and forwards it to the victim advocate for the state police. The victim advocate then sends an email to the school official with just that child's name. And the school official is then able to notify the building principal, the counselor, and the teacher. This is what the form actually looks like. So it's to the school district from, our partnership is with the New York State Police just because our district is so big. And Captain LaFountain was the police representative at the table. But conversations with the Sheriff's Department, because you have a school resource officer through the Sheriff's Department, those conversations are happening. But it basically identifies, the law enforcement was at this kid's house last night, so just kind of be aware. And there's a lot of conversation about what happens after that. And really, when we go and look at situations, sometimes the number one thing that we wish we had was just the information. So this is a really nice tool just to give us that information. And I have a meeting with them next week, which we're going to talk about how we're going to collect the data, what we do with the referrals. And a lot of the goals are to provide those kids, if they're identified, with those wraparound mental health services, connecting them with ages here at school, with a school counselor, and just creating that awareness that these things that are happening in kids' homes are affecting them here at school. So it's exciting to be kind of the pilot school district with the state police for this. And I can certainly continue to update as things progress. But the MOU for the district and the state police is on the agenda tonight, so just wanted you to have that information before you approve that. Questions?
You said about the surveys. At what rate do you send those surveys out? Or how often do they get them? At the beginning of every school year kind of deal?
Usually it's at the beginning of the school year. The questions aren't designed for really young kids, so they kind of target middle level, kind of middle school grades. But they're also embedding them into different formats. So they're kind of asking the questions in different ways, so that it's not always did you see your dad hit your mom? It's kind of coming up with alternate ways of addressing those questions. So there's some different formats that you can use, but it would be like a yearly type assessment.
Thank you.
Did I hear you say that only Beekmantown was asked? Is that like in Clinton County or just?
Yeah, so each, I guess the New York State Police and the Plattsburgh City Police were the two representatives at the table. So Plattsburgh City School is working with the Plattsburgh City Police Department, and we're working with the New York State Police. So we're kind of the trial run for the state police.
Like a pilot? Like a pilot?
The pilot, yeah.
And I actually have one more question. And this is just curiosity. We do this during the school year, but what happens over the summer? Because our students don't have us over the summer. Or, you know what I mean? We're not there to provide consistency for them. So during the summer, is the school notified, like what kind of school year? There's summer vacation these kids are having, or is it just school year?
That's a good question. That's definitely something that I can follow up with them, because I think their process won't change. They'll complete that referral and send it to that victim advocate whenever it happens. So it may just be a matter of having the victim advocate just sending those emails throughout the summer as well, just to have that information.
I just want to say that I think it's great that we're implementing this. I retired from the Plattsburgh City School District in an elementary school. And you could see before Christmas vacation, before vacations, the kids would start acting up, and you knew something was going on at home because they didn't want to be at home. Their school was their safe place. You know, so I think this is great that we're getting involved in this.
Very quick question. So we've had an agreement with Child Advocacy Center for a while, and we've been working with them. So what is the difference now, other than the report from because the police would contact us anyway, right? Through the Child Advocacy Center before?
Yes, the police that contact us through the Advocacy Center are BCI investigators, and these are the everyday uniformed troopers that go into people's homes and respond to any sort of call on a routine basis. And they each will have those forms, and they'll forward them to the specific victim advocate, who then disseminates them.
So where we were before, excellent job, Mike. Where we were before was the BCI investigator would come, and we have a safe place here where the kid doesn't miss, with the student may not miss that much school, and they can go into the room where the BCI investigator can watch but not be right there. It's just a cleaner, safer environment for the student. There's been no change there. That's still part of the process. But I think because we've been good partners, and we've had some bumps in the roads and growing pains, because we've been good partners, and maybe they reached out to us, and Mike spearheaded this handle that came to me about a year ago. And it helps us answer that question: what's happening with that kid? Why is that kid? Why are those students acting out? Well, they just experienced trauma that no kid should ever experience in their home, and it's never going to be acting out in school. So it's just that communication loop, connecting them with Sarah or Darcy or whomever, and then with the teacher. Just give them a little bit more information, but not too much information.
Right.
Any more questions from us? Thank you very much. Moving on, next is reports. Our first report is Superintendent of Schools, Daniel Mannix.
Okay, quickly. I hope everybody received the email about the minutes. I know there was some discussion on minutes other than the discussion we just had. Hopefully those will be answered to anybody's lingering questions. Really important point that we've been tracking, and we're probably at a critical mass in kindergarten class size. Larger than expected. We like to say Beekmantown's the place to be, and our enrollment, we're one of the few districts that has increased enrollment in the northern New York area. So our kindergarten class size at BES is large, very large, for kindergarten. So I'm going to be recommending to Principal Marquette, basically at her request too, that we find another kindergarten teacher so that the class sizes become more appropriate for kindergarten. That's not something that will happen. Probably we'll take a look at first grade, second grade, and when there's a point in time when class sizes can go up to a larger number, and it's more hitting the state average or more appropriate. Right now, I think we're at 23 per class roughly if you average it out, and we know, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but if you have 1 or 2 people call you today, they're kindergarten people that are coming in, we know that they do come in. And before, what always happened was people would come in and people would leave. But we're not getting as many people leaving, they're coming, and they're adding. So we wanted to have appropriate class size in kindergarten. I'm going to be recommending that we hire a kindergarten teacher. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I assume you have a room for it.
Well, that's the tricky part. So we do, or we will, right?
We'll get cozy.
We'll get cozy. Yeah, and like all change, there may be people that are not loving it, right? But sometimes we make tough decisions that may not be the greatest decision for the comfort and convenience of our employees, but it's certainly the right thing to do for those kids. That probably there'll be some bumps in the road, some growing pains there. Not for sure, but Sarah's done a great job communicating those kind of efforts with her staff. I'll give you an example of that. The idea that teachers were going to need to move for the construction project and change their classroom. A lot of times that's met with high anxiety and complaints. And she did a great job, and they moved because they understood it was for the betterment of the school. Hopefully that same luck will transpire. Find another class for kindergarten. And then lastly, are there any more questions? Mike, did I answer your question? Okay. Lastly, like the Handle with Care, which is a great piece for our social emotional health and well-being of our students. We received word that BHSN will be piloting with us, and only with us right now, telepsych, which will allow our kids to utilize that same room that Ed was just talking about, and give the kids the ability to maybe fill a prescription or meet a doctor through essentially a television, and give the kids what they need right here in the house in the school. So I do appreciate BHSN has been a tremendous partner, for us, for our admin team, but most importantly for our kids and their families, and getting services right here where the kids are. It's been terrific. We want to continue that, and they trust us. They think we'll get it done. We will. So they may be running cable and putting a TV into their room, and we'll have to do that because it's for the betterment of our offerings. That's all I have.
I just had something to add to that, like what Dan said. I'm on the board of BHSN, and they are really proud of what we're doing at Beekmantown, and they're doing the telepsych program here. Hopefully, they're going to expand it to the entire county, because right now we have a presence. BHSN has a presence in every district in the county, so hopefully it goes well here, and we can serve the entire county eventually.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Moving on, our next report will be School Business Executive Mary LaValle Lane.
Hi, so quick update. We had the external audit last week take place in the district offices. We were under construction, so we moved around a little bit, moved file boxes between the offices, but we got through it. The audit went very well, as was reported to me from the auditors. We expect that they will be wrapping that up within the next few weeks, and we should meet the timelines that we had established in prior years, and that should be coming forward, I would say, by middle of September to early October. Also, last week we worked on and finalized a prospectus to sell a bond anticipation note. That's timed with the fiscal advisor's timeline for the capital project. So you may recall when we had our bid opening in June of the contracts that we had, 4 or 5 contracts. Only one of them came in under budget. That one was the site contract that the board authorized. So this the bond anticipation note, is intended to be the cash flow for that aspect of the capital project. The sale is actually scheduled to take place tomorrow. It's all handled by fiscal advisors. They've handled most school districts in New York State, as well as towns and municipalities throughout the state. And we expect to close on that within 2 weeks, and we will need the board president to sign off on that paperwork for that to happen. The other item that occurred actually just yesterday was a rebid, which is for the gas fuel island at the bus garage. And the estimate for that was about $175,000 for that portion of the project. The bid came in at about $180 and some change. That's on the agenda as well for the board to authorize. Prior to authorizing that, one thing that we had not done was actually formally reject all of the other bids that came in over budget from that June bid opening. So as a matter of process, that's on the agenda as well. And I am pleased to report, and was so excited yesterday when I got the email from the Clayton County Real Property Office that we had our final tax rolls. So last night and this morning, we were calculating the tax rate that is on the agenda for the board to approve that warrant. And I'll just give you a brief update of that. The tax rate is $17.52 per thousand. That's up 23 cents from the prior year rate. As compared to last year's rate had gone to $17.29, and that was up 24 cents from the year before. So this seems to be tracking right in line with where we have been. I also have a history. I had just updated what the actual tax assessed values for the district are, and I can distribute that to you or just upload it to the portal. As you may recall, our tax levy this year was 2.94%, and that's what we went out for with the tax levy assigned. We did have a small amount of omitted taxes that were sent to us from the county, which were corrections from prior years. And that's really it. Before you leave this evening after the meeting, I'm going to track down each one of you and get your original signature on the tax warrants. As a matter of process, that's what authorizes our tax collectors. We have one in the town of Plattsburgh, and we have one for the towns of Altona, Beekmantown, and Shazy. And they begin collecting the taxes on September 1st, as long as the board has authorized that warrant. So we'll do that at the end of this evening as well. That's it.
Any questions? Next is ex officio student board member Cameron Kuchar.
So I just have a brief synopsis of each of our district schools. At Cumberland Elementary, summer school is in full swing there. Students are learning in smaller settings and they're going on field trips weekly. BHSN is able to continue counseling services at the school over the summer, which is great for the kids and even more convenient for the parents. The custodians have been surviving the heat while they prepare the building for the fall. And a new camera system has been installed at the building over at Cumberland Head. And the grounds are doing a wonderful job maintaining the yard and shrubs. Teachers are already starting to prepare their classrooms. Being August already, they like to give an early start on the busy months that are to come. And they look forward over there to starting the school year, meeting new students, families, and seeing existing students, and welcoming new staff members of the Cumberland Head family. At Beekmantown this past month, things have been pretty quiet since summer school is taking place at Cumberland Head. And the custodians have been relocating classrooms in preparation for the upcoming building project, as well as taking care of typical summer cleanings and repairs. The building is coming along quite nicely down there. Over at our middle school, our previous middle school principal, Amy Campbell, has left the building, and Miss Nelson is starting to take over for her. And besides the transition of principals, there isn't much that I know what's going on in the middle school. The summer has been an exciting time for our high school over here. Principal Vizio has felt very welcomed by the staff and faculty and students and community upon his start day on July 15th. The collaboration with previous Principal Justin Gardner and Secretary Danielle Pelkey, counselors, teachers, union representatives, and parents has provided great insight into the progressive direction of the high school while aligning this understanding with the district's vision and goals. Mr. Vizio will continue to collaborate with teachers, staff, and community members and students in the upcoming weeks to fully understand the intricacies of the high school before the start date of the 2018 and 2019 school year. everyone so far has been quite excited to start our new school year and continue to add to the progressive environment here at Beekmantown High School and the district as a whole.
Thank you very much. Next reports are committee reports, starting with operations.
Okay, we met July 26th. Of course, we had representatives from Siemens, wrapping up the energy performance contract, Tetra Tech, our architects, and construction associates who we're using to oversee all these projects. Been a big help to us. Our 3 board members and, of course, some of our in-house people were there. So we talked about the energy performance contract, of course, the capital project, the capital outlay project, and a bunch of other projects that the in-house people are doing. So I'll try to summarize some of the high points. With the energy performance contract, it's really coming to a close. The big tank out in front here is actually part of the energy performance contract, not part of the capital project, which might be confusing because there's so much going on there with the capital investment. That's the parking lot, but the large tank is for the LP gas. It's much larger than what we had there before, and it allows us to purchase gas at a larger bulk. It saves us money that way. The district office roof is being completed. I think that's ahead of schedule. No?
They're almost there.
Okay. Well, in our meeting, they said 4 weeks to finish.
Yes.
And we're 2 weeks into it.
I might add a week or 2 onto that, but
Okay.
we're getting there.
As a side note, I much appreciate Mr. Scott's daily reports. You guys have all seen them. They're nice. I'm very much involved, so I can see exactly what's happening. Where before you got involved, the reports are much more dispersed, but very detailed with who's on property and what materials are actually installed. So that's been a nice addition. Yeah. And lastly, the energy performance contract will wrap up with an air and water balancing, which has to do with a large scale pressure measurements and just making sure air is distributed evenly and appropriately, and so we don't have cold rooms, warm rooms. That's going to be the final stage of the energy performance contract. I think we'll produce a summary at the end of this of the finances and all of the scope of the project, because it's been a large project and it's coming to a close, so it'd be nice to see.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. With the capital project, the parking lots, as you can see, are in full swing up front. And that's a bulk of what Mr. Scott is reporting to us. Another big addition or discussion had to do with the parking lot lighting, which you've also recently seen an email from Mr. Mannix, because there was a problem initially with the poles being owned by NYSEG, and we couldn't do anything with them, right? So we've taken those down, and we have a couple of different options to choose from. The Tetra Tech guided us into a plan that will work so that we will have lighting in the parking lot as the parking lot's finishing, hopefully before the start of the school year. As Business Executive Blaine discussed the bus garage tank, we were at that meeting. We were still waiting for bids, so I should report that we received bids, and so that's good news. You might also be asking yourself, as we did in the meeting, what happened to some of the things that didn't make were well overbid, such as the large group instruction room, the gym / cafeteria at elementary, the stream lab at Cumberland Head, Beekman Elementary entrance. Well, all those things are going to be repackaged, reevaluated, Tetra Tech, and then with construction associates as well, and we're going to hope to put them back out to bid November.
Yeah, so we just to jump in. We have a meeting, I think, on Thursday. It's on my calendar with construction associates at Tetra Tech to really take a look at all the forces that were at play and what can we expect moving forward. Is there going to be a need to say we can't do this, we can't do that, and instead of this type of material over here, we can save money if we use this type of material. So there's going to be some tough decisions to be made, and we'll start that process. This is the first, we're not making any decisions, but I'm going to hear them in a meeting with a couple other people before they go to the operations committee with kind of their final recommendations. Or start the discussion, maybe in the final recommendation, maybe a couple meetings.
One of the main things I got out of this last meeting was, of course, we're all very disappointed that some of the main pillars of this capital project came over bid, and we discussed in quite detail why. And I'm not going to go over all those points, but the delay with SAD coming late into the market, there's various increases in materials and tariffs and steel and this, that, and the other thing. And one of the things we knew, we still kind of scratched our heads and said, there still must be more in Tetra Tech, and construction associates dove back in. And I appreciated that, they looked us in the eye and said, this is where we went wrong. And there's multiple factors, but, they took accountability and we're working really hard on moving forward and figuring out what we can do. So that was nice. So lastly was the capital outlay project at Cumberland Head. At first the bids came over, right? But then, so then some financial
repackaging. I think Business Executive Blaine and Dan Noonan were part of the repackaging. Is that correct, Mary? For the cap outlay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, for the window project.
Yeah. So, happy to report that we found a way to keep it under the 100,000. So that's going to, be moving forward with Adams Glass. And Mr. Noonan and his staff are going to pick up some of the things that would have pushed it over again, like casings around and sheathing or sheetrocking or some of the interior roof stuff that they can do to take that out of the project, which makes it more expensive. So we got that squared away. And I was surprised at the list of other projects that Mr. Noonan was working on. He threw out a whole bunch of things which I think a lot of us don't realize how much these guys do. Like the parking lot that we all just parked in. I'm like, well, that doesn't get into our capital budget. No, it's something the district took on. And, obviously, Mr. Noonan wasn't laying asphalt, but he's involved and overseeing. And other things like another big thing was looking at a full-time building maintenance person for Cumberland Head, because they're only able to go over there whenever, like once a week or whenever they kind of stack the projects up and then try to bang them all out. But they're realizing that building needs someone more full-time. If you've been out back, you've seen that the baseball field's being moved, which is going to, in the future, permit varsity baseball. So it's going to be nice when the track is done and everything's done. One of Mr. Mannix's main objectives was to get all our teams on campus here, rather than we're not taking personal autos or busing people around for games and practices over to Town Hall or other places. So that's going to be a real nice addition.
And just for equality, we're moving the baseball field a little bit so we can put a softball field in too, so they'll both be.
Yep. Where the football field is now, because the football field's going to be on the turf field. And all that big pile of dirt, I'm told, is going to be leveled, and that's going to be additional green space for soccer fields and other uses. So a lot going on. Mr. Noonan mentioned something about fiber optics, which I didn't really understand.
Yeah. So we are bringing fiber into this building and Cumberland Head, which will help this building, but greatly enhance the ability for the Cumberland Head teachers to utilize the Chromebooks to a greater extent. So we used E-Rate, and I look at Gary's department has been involved. Mr. Bell was involved. It was a good team effort to bring in state-of-the-art infrastructure paid for 80 cents on the dollar by the federal government. And we won't have to, I would hope we don't need improvements on that for years and years to come, but you never know what they're going.
And also permit us to connect the bus garage with high-speed internet beyond the wireless connection that's been there for the last decade, as well as the driver ed simulator. The path that was chosen by the district to make sure that all of those were hit on the line, so multiple benefits.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gary. When you connect the buildings, you're really helping more teaching and learning. But that bus garage is really a safety. It's really enhancing their ability to communicate with bus drivers and parents and track better. So that was a really good connection.
There will also be an indirect benefit to the community along the route that West Telecom took to get that fiber to the main building and to Cumberland Head.
Lastly, they're renovating the middle school office and the high school gym floor is being refinished. So they got a lot going on, and so it's impressive. That's it for the questions.
Mike, I know that we had issues with construction associates in the past. How do you feel going forward? Like, have we rebuilt that relationship?
Yeah, Mr. Mannix met with them on a number of occasions, but the last few occasions before our operations committee, I asked him how it went, and he was very happy. Like I said, they looked me in the eye right in that meeting and said, there were a lot of factors, but we have to take part of responsibility. And they were definitely looking forward to, there was some miscalculations of material costs and other costs, and basically take ownership of some of that. But we're not willing to push them aside because their errors weren't, egregious. It was as part of the problem. But they've been coming and showing up to our meetings and participating. So.
The state department was so late giving us the okay that by the time we got the okay, a lot of the companies around here, the contractors and everything, they were all booked up with other jobs. So that was an opportunity.
Correct.
I'm glad to see, in synopsis, I'm glad to see that we're not giving up on some of those big items, I remember when I first started on the board, I thought, wow, Sable has a turf field. Wouldn't that be wonderful at some point in my tenure if we would have that? And I never thought it would happen. And so, we're getting a parking lot, which is absolutely a must, and then just the field and the track. And those are two fantastic things. All these other things are, as far as I'm concerned, huge bonuses, and we're not giving up on it. So, unfortunately.
I can tell you that the gentleman that Construction Associates has on site, we were concerned about him, but I tell you, he's done a great job day in and day out. So he's picked up. We're happy. We're constantly on a big meeting coming up. I think they said Thursday. I think it's Thursday. We'll look in the eye and see if we can keep going down a positive road.
No, that's great. As long as they took, I'm glad that they came to the table and said
they try to weasel around it.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Mike? Moving on is Nexus Technology.
We met on last Monday on the 30th, and Mr. Lambert went through, he got right into the weeds of his technology plan, so I won't really, he gave a very short synopsis there as to what he put the committee through. I'm not going to bore everybody with that. You can go through the whole plan itself. What I kind of wanted to bring to the board is the faculty and the students, basically the students with this plan. Mr. Lambert brought in R.J. Barkham, and I got to admit to you, I did not catch what grade that kid was in.
He is going into 10th grade.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, impressive young man. But you could see the pride in that young man's face. He's one of the Beak Squad people. So that was one of the things that I got from that is Mr. Lambert recruits these young men and women in. They're involved. They take responsibility. Obviously, it's voluntary, and it's definitely succeeded and is definitely thriving. You could just see the pride in that young man's face. It was a credit to you guys to get that up and going. The next thing I wanted to was Chromebooks. Everybody has a Chromebook, so I was kind of concerned as to when and where a new Chromebook was given out. So they're given out in 3rd, 6th, and 9th grade, which is pretty good. Everybody is only 3 years out from the best technology. I mean, I know I have the same one that Ed's using right there. My kids are in 8th grade. They don't use theirs anymore. They use mine. Oh, Dad's got a touchscreen one. So, they constantly use that, which is great. Another thing that I thought was extremely fit right in with the Eagle Pride was the care of these Chromebooks. And it's a $20 insurance for any accident, but hey, you're responsible for this expensive piece of equipment. I thought that was extremely good that they got going on there. There's obviously a $10 copay for additional repairs, and Mr. Lambert went through that. Seems to be repeat kids that need that $10 copay, which might be one of my kids. Who knows? He had a broken screen this year. So that was that's on the student side. That's the kind of things that I wanted to report to the board that I thought were extremely positive. For the teachers, needless to say, they obviously really enjoy having that Chromebook, having that technology, using that with these kids. The one thing that I believe she was the librarian. She was sitting in the corner, right next to you.
Actually, it was Mrs. Madden.
She was the librarian, correct?
Are you talking about the one that was talking about power?
Yeah.
That was Mrs. Madden.
That was the two things that they for the faculty is they need more power. One teacher had 7 little power outlets stuck in her little cubby hole, so when the kid forgets his or it only has half of it, she can plug it in, or she has one that they can use. Another thing was Wi-Fi. I got to admit, I should have wrote her name down, but she was a little concerned about the Wi-Fi.
Cumberland Head, not
Cumberland Head. That's true.
Weeds.
True.
Mm-hmm. She was, I think, one of the happier ones when we told her about our E-rate project.
Yes.
Which is completed now.
Yes. So the issues that the teachers have already been addressed, which I know I guess the power issue hasn't been. I guess we need 1,000 outlets everywhere, but be that as it may, that's a small hurdle if you ask me. So that was just kind of the things I wanted to bring is you can go through with Mr. Lambert's technology plan, which is extremely complete, and like he said, I would guess way above what the state is going to require. Just a couple things that I thought were pretty good from the students, and a couple issues from the faculty that have been resolved that are going to make their lives easier. That's about all I have.
Question, Doug. Did you guys talk at all about, I know we've been using the Chromebooks more, and students are using their Chromebooks on like study hall, and I know we've talked about more online classes. Was there a concern about bandwidth and enough equipment to be able to do all of that going forward? Or?
I believe we have enough, don't we, in this building?
One of the things that the superintendent had alluded to was the fiber connection that we contracted with West SoCom to run. That the initial purpose of that was to provide a secondary connection for the district in the case of an outage, because we are depending on our connections so heavily. And the bids, when they came back from the vendors that we solicited, were so far above what we currently are paying Capital Region BOCES for. That secondary connection will most likely be our primary connection because it is much more robust than we already have now. And that is, the superintendent mentioned that there's probably no need to scale up in the near future because the bandwidth that we're receiving, but it's essentially because it's fiber to the district, we can scale almost to an unlimited. We don't have to rerun things. I'm sure you're aware of how that works, but it's really a cost for the district for the amount of bandwidth we're using, not so much the equipment to make that happen. So we're positioned really, really well to take more advantage of online applications, online textbooks, distance learning, et cetera, than ever before.
I was there too. So the two things that I appreciated that haven't been mentioned too were our school buses, Wi-Fi capable. But within the realm of our school district. So kids that need to do homework that are playing football or participating in a sporting event now have access to the Wi-Fi so they can do their homework while on the bus. Also, the hotspots. How many hotspots?
We have 59 of them divided among the 4 schools.
So the accessibility for students who don't have internet access have the ability to do. We still sign them out through the library.
They're actually signed out through the tech integration specialists in each of the buildings, so they have direct contact with the students.
All right, excellent.
And they can bug them when they're overdue and deactivate them if they are.
Very nice.
Were the hotspots on the buses, some of them available last year?
Pardon me?
Were the hotspots on the buses, some of them available last year or not?
This will be the 3rd year that they're available, but the second school year that the entire bus fleet is equipped, the entire active bus fleet. Not all of the spare buses would have them, but all of the active buses are currently.
So they're equipped, but do all of them allow them to be used?
The way, and the way that it works, and we learned from the process in the past, we have our own filtering in place for the district, but the Wi-Fi on the buses, the company's called Kajit. The Kajit device actually adds another layer on top of it, and what that layer allows us to do is limit the access to district-owned devices so that we're ensured that the device that's being used for educational purposes and not someone just bringing their personal cell phone to download songs on Spotify or play Fortnite or whatever they happen to be trying to do. But that way we know that the data that's allocated to those buses is being used for the purposes intended for it.
So when the kids tell me that the hotspot's not working, I can tell them, no, you're just using your device instead, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. But honestly, in fairness, we did learn partway through the year of some of the limitations that the buses had as far as filtering personally owned devices. So the transition, I want to say the transition was made in February, and during the 6th grade orientation, 9th grade orientation, and elementary back to school nights, we'll do a better job about communicating that change to parents so that they have an understanding of how it can be used to help their kids, especially the students that are student athletes. We spend a considerable amount of time on buses.
Sure.
So that's really the intended, that audience and the students that have the longer bus routes are really our intended beneficiaries of that.
So, do we have any more questions for Tim Gold?
I do want to point out that when we first started this initiative, we surveyed all the families to find out who had internet connection at home, and it was 70%, which is, that's great, 30% of 2,000 students is a lot of students. And we recently, less than a year ago, we surveyed students again, and now 95% of the kids have a connection at home. So it's nice that families are seeing that that investment. So, and that might help us with those hotspots down the road as well. So it's good. It's good to see that commitment because we believe that it really does level the playing field for all of our kids if they can understand how to access the learning that we provide with good digital citizenship.
Any more questions, comments? All right, excellent. Next committee would be safety committee.
Yeah, I think I report on that. I don't think we have a chair for safety committee. And what I should do is, I'll just give you briefly, we have tremendous upgrades that are happening as we speak. I think Mr. Kuchar mentioned cameras being installed at Cumberland Head. Before they had about 4 or 5 working cameras. Now they might have, it's not 45, but there's enough. Upwards of 30 cameras. We, for a longest time, teachers have been saying it'd be nice if we had some kind of color code, so if we knew we were in a lockdown or a shelter in place, all these different color coded emergency procedures we had, it'd be nice if, you know, you have the announcements, but you can't always hear the announcements. You might be in the hallway, you might be outside. So now we have these strobes that are color-coded, so they'll know just by sight that they'll know what emergency we're in. And then, Gary, what else did we, the panic buttons.
Yeah.
We've installed panic buttons, which is a, you know, obviously, worst case scenario, you hit the button, everything goes into lockdown, 911's called. Everything that we always used to have, people we hope we got done, happens when you push the button. So that, we'll have 10 of those around the district. We're working with the company to send out notifications to the parents, to Chromebooks, to Facebook, and just communicate effectively, and make sure that it's state of the art, and it's an investment in the safety of our teachers and our number one customers, our kids. So there's some other items, and maybe once we complete it all, we'll have a quick board report. But it's impressive to see what we're doing for the safety.
One thing that impressed me was, for example, a student or a parent is not allowed to pick up a student or whatever, that the license plate of the car can be put in a computer, and if the car drives into the parking lot, then they're notified that that car is in the parking lot, and that parent is not allowed in school.
So
That's really...
yeah, the cameras we have are really high def and have tremendous capabilities. And one of the items you could invest in is the license plate reader of the license, in case you have people that are banned from the district. Right now, we only have 1 or 2 that are banned.
Do we have any more questions or comments concerning safety? Right, excellent. Moving on. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes as amended. Motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Mike. Second? Question or discussion? Is there a second? All in favor?
Just for clarification, we're approving the minutes of
As amended. So
The
that
minutes
would
as
only
am-
be July 10th and June 26th operation committee. So we removed July 24th, 2018.
Thank you.
So, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the CSE, CPSE, and 504 recommendations dated August 7th, 2018. May I have a motion, please? It's Pauline, second.
Second.
Mark? Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following personnel resolutions on this consent agenda. Do I remove consent because we altered?
It's still
It's still consent, okay. Resignations, appointments, fireman agreement, and stipends for CSE, CPSE, be and are hereby approved as amended.
It's just resignation. I'm sorry, just resignation.
Okay, so just resignations and appointments. Okay. Be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please? Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Mark Sands? Sorry, Mark. I caught myself. I'm getting better. Do we have any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. It's resolved that the superintendent resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolution on this consent agenda, municipal cooperation agreements, technology plan, contract with assistant superintendent of special services, signed letter of understanding with Beekmantown Administrators Association, agreement between Beekmantown Central School District and Sue Harland, per diem nurse, and MOU with New York State Police Department and Beekmantown Central School District. Be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Andy?
I'll second. I'll second.
Mark Sam is the second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. All right, so 9 financial is not amended, correct? Okay. It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolution on this consent agenda on transfers, bids, rejections, award, and confirmation tax, rolls, and tax levy be and are hereby approved. This is, may I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Is that you, Andy?
I'll go first.
Okay, so you want a motion?
Yes.
All right, Andy seconds. Any discussion or questions? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Douglas Beatty?
Yes.
Andrew Brockway?
Yes.
Kathy Buckley?
Yes.
Shannon Drown?
Yes.
Michael Hagedorn?
Yes.
Holden Lehman?
Yes.
Ed Marin?
Yes.
Mark Sam?
Yes.
Colleen Stone?
Resolution passes. All right, so do I need to change? Well, all right, let's do clerk pro tem first. It's resolved that the superintendent of school, it's resolved that the Board of Education appoint a clerk pro tem. Any nominations? Okay. A motion made by Mike for Kathy. May I have a second? Okay, thank you. Any discussion or questions? All,
I'm sorry. What are we appointing clerk pro tem?
we need to go to executive session to discuss the things.
One of them's the minutes.
Oh, that's fine, but we need
No, I'm just
to do the
asking.
clerk pro tem.
So what-
And then we'll alter our resolution to go into executive session.
Do we want to, there's a possibility, we could keep the clerk. I don't know what the questions are going to be. Some of these may not be executive session discussions. If they do start going down that road, we would move to the next item. Is that fair? Andy?
Yeah, that's the only question I have, because I don't think the minutes are executive session. Right.
They may be items. So
Well, we do that and then.
should you stay with Joanne as clerk and then go to clerk pro tem, or should you appoint the clerk pro tem? You got it.
Okay. All right. Any,
Did you second the clerk?
No.
Who was-
It was probably still somebody second.
oh, I thought you seconded.
No.
Look at that. Oh,
Sure.
it's Pauline, okay. All right, so motion by Mike, second by Pauline. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. All right, now we'll do.
But we still have these outstanding items, which may or may not be appropriate for executive session discussion.
All right, so the minutes are appropriate, so why don't we start with the minutes? superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the minutes of July 24th, 2018. So we need a motion.
Motion.
We need a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion?
I object to the minutes being approved because I at no point, even on the audio, said that I was doing it in my board capacity. I would never state that I was doing it in my board capacity because then my cell phone would become discoverable. I have attorney-client information on my cell phone that I would never turn over. I have a client in this room tonight that I would never do that to. So I take great offense that whoever drafted the minutes stated something that I at no point said I was doing.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, I would state that if it is approved that way, that I will submit it for an Article 70 proceeding to have the minutes changed because I at no point said that I was doing it in my official capacity.
Why don't we do this? Do you have a recommendation of what part of the minutes to retract specifically?
Any part that references that I volunteered to take the minutes in my capacity as a board member as an official document of the board. I don't have the minutes in front of me, they were on the computer. I had access and then I'd be subject to more questions.
Does anybody recall part of the conversation?
When I can play it, I have it on my phone.
No.
Robert's Rule of Order, is what we're for a second. Does anybody recall during the conversation when it was pointed out that we didn't have recordings? And I think Andy said, I'm not moving forward unless we have the recordings. With tape recorders out, I actually remember thinking, I'm going to go find those recorders because Joanne wasn't here for that meeting. He asked why they weren't there. I said, it appears the board clerk forgot the recorders, if you remember that. And then we agreed that we move forward and that Andy was recording the meeting. We remember that. Am I wrong in that record?
Can I ask a question?
I just want to know, does anybody else remember it that way?
So I would just play this for the record.
I just want to let you know for full disclosure that I'm taping. It's public session. Yeah. So, typically,
This is Doug Gerhart speaking for the record.
so we can do that.
And it was well after that.
No. I hit pause on accident. I'm putting in a recorder.
I understand that, but the rest of us can't hear it.
Okay, but I'm telling you into the record.
Okay, but that is not.
So I'll defer to you.
This is what I did. I said it was earlier, but it wasn't an official record of the school district. So is it or
There's
not?
been a lot of questions on exit interviews, and I'd like to try to give the board a full understanding of the process for exit interviews, and then some global understanding of what we've been gleaning from exit interviews. Is that what people like to do?
I think that
wait.
usually have to be an open session so that we have a better understanding of the general nature of how it's addressed.
Yeah, I think the discussion of how exit interviews are performed in the school district is not something that would be a matter for exec session.
Yeah. We're not talking about everybody specifically, right?
No.
Well, I would like to make it a record because I'm being accused of saying something that I have on audio recording that I didn't say. So as a member of the board, I'm going to make the record clear so that the public can hear it.
No.
If the minutes say something different than what is on an audio recording. So if there's another way to do that, I'm not disseminating. I'm using it for my own. There's a statement. Have you read the minutes since you're being paid $200 an hour to be here tonight?
They'll pick up what
No, I will because the minutes state that I stated that I was recording it in my capacity as a board member. At no point did I state that.
It's a public meeting.
Right.
Okay, so you heard it.
And that's where, I'm
The minutes state that I said verbally that I was doing it in my capacity as a board member. I did not say that at any point, so I'm motioning to have the minutes amended because I at no point said that, which Mr. Sand just acknowledged that he heard on audio recording.
Yes, but there was also a long discussion with Mr. Gearhart trying to explain the difference between someone from the public recording the meeting and someone sitting at the board table recording the meeting. When someone from the public records, they sit in the audience. They don't participate in discussion. They don't vote. They don't make decisions. They don't stand, well, hopefully they stand for the pledge, but they don't participate in roll call. They are the general public. When you are sitting at this table and you are participating in a meeting and as an active board member, you are a board member.
So you can keep repeating Doug's talking points, but
you're right. He was here to legally advise.
But that discussion happened after the meeting. It never occurred during the meeting.
That discussion happened during the meeting.
Let me interrupt both of you just for a second. We're talking about, let's go back. I agree with some of the points you're making. I understand you have a different perspective. Let's go back to the objective of voting on these minutes, okay? So, the minutes say Board Member Brockway announced that he was recording the meeting. This is true.
That is true.
That is true. And then the superintendent stated it appeared the district court forgot to leave the tape recorders, blah, blah, blah. Then there's a statement that says Board Member Brockway stated he would keep the official recording. That's the one you object. Can we amend the meeting minutes so that it strikes that last sentence and go forward?
And I am saying that I will initiate an Article 78 proceeding and sue for attorney's fees if that is in there, because I at no point verbalized
We're
that.
getting to your objective. So why don't you motion to strike that sentence that says that you would keep the official recording?
I motion to strike the statement that I volunteered to take the board minutes in my capacity or as the official record of the board. I at no point said that.
That's his objective, and you guys can vote on that.
All right.
Right.
Whether or not you heard that at the last meeting.
It's almost irrelevant, really, because the argument of whether it belongs to the board or not, that's a whole separate case. It's a separate case.
One is district record and one what was in the meeting.
One what's in the minutes.
So this is, he's objecting to what is in the minutes, and then you guys were there, so.
He's not objecting that it was being recorded because he agrees with that. That's in the minutes.
So he's objecting that he wants that portion of the minutes redacted, and I certainly wasn't there to hear it. So you, as the board, were there, should vote on whether or not you recall that statement being made or not.
All right, so he's made a motion. Do we need a second?
Yes.
Okay, because, all right, Andrew has made a motion to amend July 24th, 2018 minutes to retract what statement?
The sentence under tape recording, Board Member Brockway stated he would keep the official recording. That's the sentence he wants to.
Okay. So, we need a second.
I'll second.
Is there any additional discussion or questions? All right. I'm not sure that all in favor is going to work here.
Motion for a roll call vote.
Do we need a second for a roll call vote?
You can discuss it if you want. To me, it doesn't matter because the issue of whether the tape is valid or not, do we want the information? That's a whole separate subject. So for the point of having minutes, I'm just going to say I'm going to vote yes on the motion.
I think the purpose of the meeting was to do the interviews, and then the public section came after, my memory.
Yes.
And it was a error not having the recorders.
Right.
Andrew said he was taking it for his personal there was some disagreement with that, and now that it's uploaded, there's disagreement whether or not it's complete. So if we redact it, it's out there on the portal. I don't see the issue.
I don't know if there's disagreement that it's not complete. There's uncertainty that it's not complete.
I don't think he
And
recorded the
it's
full
not,
meeting either.
and it's not about, did he do something wrong? It's about documents of the district protect our liabilities, big picture.
And
So 5 years from now, if someone comes and questions that, we need to be able to say, as a district, we took that document off of his phone, and it is now part of our district. It's not about whether I feel he is misrepresenting or altering. It is about being good stewards of our district and choosing to do the right thing at this moment to protect us in the future. That's it. But as far as the minutes are concerned, which is really what this resolution motion is about, that does not come into play.
And just if I can interject about the relevancy, whether or not he said it, that was, you were the witnesses, and that is your vote, but it should reflect what was said. So just redacting it for purposes of ease, that should not factor into your opinion. It should
That's true.
reflect what was said.
No, that's true.
And I don't know what was said, I wasn't present, so just reflect upon that when remembering that last board meeting.
And as far as going back to discussion, there was a long discussion between Andy and Doug Gearhart about quality of reporting, about where someone from the general public makes a recording. Are you do realize this is going to be, and these aren't quotes, just so you know, you do realize that's an official document.
That was never said at the meeting.
He did
No, he
say
didn't.
that it is now school record.
Well, if he was here, maybe we could
Schools-
ask him.
Yes, well, he couldn't
Unfortunately,
make
he
it
had
to
an
that.
appointment scheduled for 4 months with the board in another district.
So,
I
and
didn't
it's,
ask where he was.
whether he said it is a school document or an official document is semantics.
That was said, well, what I will say is that conversation, because I do remember it,
Good.
happened after the meeting when Mr. Gerhard decided to call me and relay certain information to me at your request. So that
That's
conversation
okay, but that
did
has
not
nothing-
happen at the meeting.
The conversation you had with Mr. Gearhart on the phone is not what we're talking about at this very moment. I recollect him sitting there and explaining how, as a board member, recording, I'm trying to pick my words wisely. Because of your position and the position you played in this meeting, it is difficult to record as general public because you are in the capacity of a board member. And I do recollect quite a bit of his conversation, and I felt that he did share that what you were creating was a school document. So whether he said official, and that's what you don't like about the minutes, is because it says official document, is it the word choice?
The sentence here says, Board Member Brockway stated he would keep the official recording. That's what he's
Right.
objecting to. Him
Right.
stating that. He's saying that he didn't say that.
And okay.
And for the record, what Mr. Gerhart asked me when he was sitting in Ms. Johnson's position is whether or not there was an accurate recording of the meeting, if everything could be picked up, if it was able to be done, if he should be giving legal advice in open session or we should be moving into executive session. We had a discussion on whether or not we should go into executive session. We then said that it wasn't executive session material, and I stated that I was taping it for my own personal use, and that conversation that you just recalled never happened.
I know I shouldn't do this, and I'm just doing this for potential clarity, and I could be mistaken. There's no accusation embedded here. At one point, Andy, did you say you weren't moving forward with the meeting until it was being recorded?
I said that I was uncomfortable that the recorders were not here when I had been on the board for 5 years and I had never once not seen the recorders. You stated that Joanne must have forgot to put them out. I made a motion to adjourn until the recorders were located, and everyone decided that they did not want to do that, and the motion was not voted on.
And did we decide not to do that because we talked about this side of the room could actually, your recording could pick up this side of the room, and that your device would capture the rest of the meeting?
I stated that I didn't know, well, I did not record the entire meeting. There was 4 minutes and 41 seconds, and then my phone died. But then you stated, did you get all of that? And then I didn't answer because I didn't know, because my phone was dead.
What I said was, so you're going to get this, and you stated, as I recall, Andy, I'm not trying to, just for clarity for the board, only as I recall it, you stated in affirmative that you were going to record, that you're comfortable moving forward because we were going to use your recording as the minute. So I apologize if I'm mistaken. That's just the way I recall the conversation.
Respectfully, I disagree. I never said that I was taking an official recording or that there would be an official recording of the meeting.
Any more questions or discussion?
So this vote is just to say that Andrew is not recording this as a board member?
No. It's to
Just
remove
write
that sentence,
That exact
stated that
sentence.
he would keep the official recording.
That I stated
Right.
I would.
Yes.
I
Now,
didn't take it.
now realize, if he says he did not keep the official recording,
It doesn't matter.
No one's saying that. I'm saying that I never said that at all.
It doesn't matter whether he says it or not. Legally, if it is, it is, or it is, it isn't. But whatever he says is irrelevant. It's just recording the minutes.
So if you want to vote on something that you think that I said when I know what I said, then go ahead. I mean, it's a vote of 9 members. I'm proposing that I didn't say it, and I'm asking the board to consider removing that statement because I adamantly object to having something in the minutes that I did not say.
right? So, are we still discussing, or are we going to do a vote? Vote. All in agreement?
I proposed a roll call vote. I don't know if it was voted on.
I'm sorry, roll call, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Prefer roll
proposed
call
it.
vote?
I proposed it before. I don't know if there's a second or if we voted on it.
Do we need to actually make a motion for a roll call vote, or can we just ask for a roll call vote? Need to make a motion?
I think you can just ask for it.
Okay. All right, Joanne, could we please have a roll call vote? Does anyone feel I need to read the resolution one more time for understanding? All right.
Douglas Beatty,
Yes.
Angie Brockway,
Question. Sorry. Is a yes removing it or not
Yes.
removing it?
Removing the line,
Okay, yes.
that line.
Kathy Buckley,
No.
Shannon Drown. Yes. Michael Hagedorn,
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Holden Lehman,
Yes.
Ed Marin,
Yes.
Mark Sam.
Yes.
Colleen Stone. Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right.
All right.
Okay, that's a good point. And
That's it?
so, can we premise this before we start? If any of these other ones that have personnel concerns, do we need to go into executive session based on your concerns, since you asked to have them removed?
I mean,
I mean,
I would ask council, because there's a section, according to school law 36th edition, that says what certain matters are or not. I just have questions, and I don't want to say something that should have been. I have questions as to why certain actions are being taken. I don't know if it leads to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person, or matters leading to their appointment.
if you think it might potentially harm who they are as an employee, then we should take an executive session.
Okay.
Why don't he ask a question, and then we'll know whether that goes down that road. I mean, it's just a question.
Well, sometimes asking the question of itself can cause a problem, right? Someone, an open session asked, is this person, capable of doing this? You're opening up the question of that person's competency in open session.
I don't know what his questions are.
Do you? So
Well,
are you
I'll say
requesting?
generally without mentioning the specific person, because I made several motions. I just had questions as to why certain people are not. Again, I don't know if this is giving it away or not. I don't. I had questions why certain people aren't being retained, or why certain people are being retained. I don't know if I should go into it further than that.
Seems to me like it would be a subject for executive session.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, because he's specifically asking about this person.
Or other ones on our list.
So are we, when we go into executive session, or it's surrounding these, the people associated with these for
Yes.
leftover items? Right. Okay.
Except for the stipends.
There's one, I think, well, yeah, I guess there's 5 people. Right, is that what you're saying, Mike? 2 people.
They all have personnel in them, so
Except for P, stipends, that doesn't have to do with an individual, right?
I don't think that one's executive session, but I think the other ones might be.
So let's make the motion for the stipends.
yeah, where's the stipend at?
All right,
Page
what page is
9.
that second on?
Page 8, starts at 8, goes to 9.
So,
I mean, I can ask the.
Or should we
I
wait?
should raise my hand, I
Should we
guess.
wait until we hear them?
Yeah.
Start the motion and go into discussion.
so should we address this in open session, the stipends? Are you comfortable with that?
I think I think it's I don't think it's executive session, but until we start hearing what the discussion is, then we can always propose to move to executive session.
I mean, without mentioning their names, I guess I'll ask the question. If you want me to stop, I will.
When we propose the motion, I mean,
Okay.
I'm fine with. I just think from what we always do is we make the motion
Yeah.
and then we have discussion. Right. So if we just keep that same format, then we are open discussion on that one item.
All right, so it's this one and this, right?
No, we're on page 8, start with page 8. And so start with that one. Motion that one, and then we'll motion this one separately.
Can I read it? Is it proper for me to read a resolution for you guys to make a motion on?
They'll probably write it or read it.
So I'm just gonna go to 4-6.
Respectfully, I don't know if it is or not.
I know.
4:16, this is what I just.
So I would just read that,
Yep.
and I would take out the consent agenda and just go on stipends for CSD CPSC.
It's resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following personnel resolutions on this agenda. Resignations, appointments.
We'll just go right to
No,
stipends.
just the stipends.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, don't I have to do?
No, because we already did all that.
Yeah, but what about this section? This is,
Here, pass in.
But we're only
That's
doing,
not-
we're only doing the stipends.
Okay.
Resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends the Board of Education to approve a stipend amount of $5,465 each, grant funded for Deborah Bruno and Terry Bratt for the 18-19 school year for CSE and CPSE related duties.
That's the resolution.
Motion?
You motion?
Okay.
Okay, so Andy motion. I'll second.
All right, do we have any questions or discussion?
Stop me if it's executive session, but I just had two questions: what grant was funding it, and how the two individuals that are named were chosen for the grant.
So my best recollection, not being prepared to dive into that detail, is it's the IDEA grant, and I can correct that when I go back and look at the FS10 document that I don't have here. And the IDEA grant is a grant that's approved every single year, and those stipends have been in the grant for a number of years for people to do, as it's written, outside work in their home, right? And
It's additional work as required by the grant.
Yep.
And you're correct, it has been in there for the whole time I've worked for the school district. It is the IDEA 611 and IDEA 619 grants are the funding source of it.
Okay.
pull that one out. All right. And then they normally are actually on the reorg meeting agenda. And just an anomaly in this situation is previously there were two 11-month employees that each received the stipend. So, December 12th? Okay, sorry. There was an 11-month employee that received the stipend, and there was a 12-month employee that received the stipend for the outside work. The 11-month employee left the district, and we filled that spot with a 12-month employee. The 12-month employee gaining a whole new month of work, and actually gained more than a month of work. You do the analysis between an 11-month employee and a 12-month employee with the vacation time and whatever, it's more than 20 days of work you're gaining, just because of the way the contract's written. Somebody with the 11-month skills made out. So we said last year, Joanne remembers this conversation, that the CSE department was, we're going to continue with the stipend for the current employee, the person that's been there a long time, Mary, as long as Mary's been here, I guess, would continue to receive the stipend, but the new person coming in was giving more than a month's work to the districts. They weren't going to receive that stipend. Then, and we've never made a motion last year. I think last year we made a motion for just one stipend. Is that correct, Joanne? I think that's correct.
That is correct.
Thank you, that's correct. So then this year, but the employee was never told by her supervisor that she wasn't going to get the stipend. So the employee was completely disheartened that the supervisor didn't execute that component to the new employee in their office. Does everybody understand that? I see some confusion here. So that it was stated, and that's where we were going, because you're gaining more than a whole new month of work. And the stipend is $5,000, which probably doesn't, I don't know, it'd be interesting to do analysis on, does that equate to a month of work? Because I do have a heart, and I don't like the fact that our employee was treated that way. I worked with a new assistant superintendent she made me aware that the employee was crying because she thought she was getting something significant, and she didn't. I said, I went to my emails, I said, here's the reason, here's the conversation, but it's not over, let's reflect on this. So there's a new employee, sorry, this is confusing here. They also have a half-time employee in the CSD office. That half-time employee just went to the middle school to take over from Barb Jeanette. There'll be a new typist in there as well. So we'll give the stipend to both employees, the 12-month and the 11-month. But during the summertime, the CSD office won't have the work product of the new typist going in there, and that person will move over and do other duties. So it's just a shift. So that person will work 12 months and do the night work, and they won't have the same amount of work from the typist who was a 12-month typist who had been there. I get that may sound confusing. That's the thought process behind the deal.
I just had a follow-up question. So, are they allowed to work from home, or are they working at the district? And if they're working from home, who's monitoring that aspect of it?
So that was a board-adopted resolution. It's been always stated since I've been here that they were working from home, and the person that would have overseen that, would have been Leanne Short, and now would be Polly Tapper.
Motion to approve.
All right, so you're done with discussion?
Yep.
No more questions?
If anyone else says I don't.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstains? Resolution passes.
Why don't we go to number 3? Or, sorry, 3 on my list, Villa and Jolicoeur.
So I just had a question.
You want to do the motion thing again?
Oh, sorry. So I don't know if Kathy wants to
read one, leave it.
Sorry.
Go for it, Joanne.
Resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve to change the appointment of Pete Villa as the board's varsity football assistant to that of Jeff Jolicoeur from the board meeting minutes of 7/10/18.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Again, apologize if it's an executive session. I was just wondering, because Pete Villa's been a coach for a long time. I didn't know if he resigned or if that was just a decision that was made.
It was neither.
Okay.
It was a mistake by Greg Myers.
Okay.
Typo.
Sorry.
Is that correct? Came in, said he didn't catch it, Joan. None of us caught it. Typo. Pete's still on the football program,
Okay.
and so is Mr. Jolicoeur.
Motion.
Let's try number 2. Let's try Mr. Tolaski. Oh, sorry.
All right, so any other questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstains? Resolution passes.
Try Mr. Tolaski.
All right.
Resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends the Board of Education to approve to rescind Joseph Chaloski's appointment as a physical education teacher from the board meeting minutes of 5/8/18 and as the board's modified soccer coach from the board meeting minutes of 7/10/18.
Motion.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any questions or discussion?
So when we usually have people on the agenda in a position, it usually says resign, hire, retirement. So I was just wondering why it was rescinded,
Sure.
his appointment.
Sure. Mr. Tolaski never served a day for us. He was appointed just recently. He moved. We knew that he was a strong candidate. We were really happy with our PE candidates. And we knew that he graduated from PHS, and I was aware of how much PHS liked him and how much they wanted him. And I asked him during the interview process if he would commit to us and be here, even though that he was a sought out after candidate. And I was assured. We appointed him, and PHS posted a position. He applied for the position. He was the successful candidate for the position, so he can't work for us in Plattsburgh. We wish him nothing but the best, although we want to beat him in hockey when he coaches hockey. So he's rescinded, and if you look on the agenda, we reposted. Sarah went through the interview process, as did I, and Dylan Carter is the new modified soccer coach and PE. So it's just a rescinding. He didn't put in a letter of resignation. It's just rescinding his appointment. And he can't be on our, still appointed by us and be appointed for Plattsburgh. That's
Makes sense.
Motion, oops, sorry.
So is that it?
All right. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstains? Resolution passes.
Let's try to go on the last one. Fine.
Resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends the Board of Education to approve the fireman agreement dated 8/3/18 between Aaron Kelly, Carlos Madden, the BTA president, and Daniel W. Manick, superintendent of schools.
Motion.
Okay, a second? Questions? Discussion?
So the Finneman agreement, that means that a person can't get tenure, right? Like the time that they serve within the district, they can't get tenure?
It's a fireman agreement is a 1-year agreement with no expectation that year of service will be added on to the employee's tenure allocation. So they're not going to get JURIMA credit after 4 years. And it's executed with open eyes. That's why the employee signs it, the union signs it, and we sign it. It's a little known document, but we use it. It's generally used when you can't find a certified applicant for a position, but you find somebody willing to move forward with the certification process. And Erin was on a fireman last year, and she very well may have her certification by we're working on it. Joy, is it by the start of the year she's thinking?
Wait for state to review.
All right, so we're waiting for state to review. She may have certification by the start of the year, so in September you may see her name again for a 4-year probationary appointment. But it's just an agreement to allow somebody to work in a school with the understanding that you can't have tenure if you're not certified. You can't start accruing. Once you get certified, we can't circumvent tenure law. Okay? That's the purpose of that.
So if she gets certified, can the time that she already served in the district be retroactively awarded towards tenure, or is that not allowed?
It's a good question. Because tenure service is 4 years, so, well, the board has some options here. You can offer to give somebody tenure earlier than the 4 years. You can appoint somebody and give them tenure like 4 days later. But state ed wouldn't count the year of uncertified as if you work 3 more years and count that first year as uncertified as a 4-year. The board, it could be less than a 4-year tenure appointment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I understand the law. That's the way I've always understood the law. So the answer is we couldn't use that year for the 4 years, but the board could make that decision earlier.
So we could, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I guess if I were to think of it as an employer, it would, or as an employee, it may cause concern to, if you have employees that are certified and they get the value of being certified for that year, and you offer that to someone else that's not, that could be problematic, right?
Yeah. So if we liked her and she's certified, we could grant her tenure even though we couldn't use that time that she was uncertified. We could then go forward and grant her tenure early if we were happy with her.
You can do that. My understanding of the 10-year laws is you can do that for anybody.
Okay.
But that's not our practice. I mean,
Has happened.
No,
everybody goes through the same tenure system, right?
Yeah.
And we like all of our employees.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain, noes? Abstains? Resolution passes.
Kathy, there's another part of it. There's another resolution.
Yep, I'm getting
Bring it back.
All right.
So the next one is resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends the Board of Education appoint Erin Kelly to a one-year term position as a home and careers teacher at step 4, BA 36, based on the 2018-19 salary schedule. This appointment commences on September 1st, 2018, and terminates on June 30th, 2019.
All right, any questions or discussion?
Any motion?
Oh, sorry, motion?
I'll motion. Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
Can I add, maybe one point, this kind of goes to maybe what Andy was talking about, is, well, we can't use that time, Andy, for tenure.
Yeah.
We did move her up a step. And generally with firemen, you're on that first step as an entry level. So she is accruing time in the district, so she did get step 4.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, your question or discussion?
No, we already talked. We already just talked.
Okay. So nothing more to add? No further questions?
No.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes.
Mhm.
This one. This one. Okay, we did quick pro temp.
Did we miss this one?
Okay. Oh, yeah, we did.
This one?
All right, yeah, we did. Additional items to discuss. Just so everyone knows, we are out of order. We are actually on number 10.
Page 14.
It's a mixture of two, page 13 of 16 and 14 of 16. August 7th for agenda, category to discuss. So we need to discuss our board retreat. Do we have a date set?
So we're looking for a time frame. Mr. Marin had a good idea in the agenda setting to look at a new location. You gave a couple ideas that I wrote down, but
Yeah, we looked at the ideas, we've had it at the Butcher Block a couple times because they have a closed venue for us to use and so forth, but to try to spread our love, as I call it, around our district to see if there's any other new places that we could hold it at.
yeah. So when we talked about the new Fairfield Inn or the Hampton Inn, they have a room for us to hold us and bring in some food and work through. I guess one of the things we want to take the temperature of the room. Most everybody who was there, how'd you feel about the school board's lady who? You may not be her, but school boards facilitated the last retreat. And then we're looking for a time of the year, September, October. So probably August is getting a little tight.
Well, we probably don't want it at the beginning of the school start year.
Yeah, it would be like later. Well, it's up to you though.
What do you guys think?
So to bring a little levity, I'm checking my calendar to see what dates are available.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's in the town.
Establish availability dates with school boards.
Are we looking at what
We
month?
are considering.
September, August.
Again.
Or August?
Did everybody appreciate the work that the School Boards Association provided for you? Did you like the way they facilitated the retreat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was that last year?
That was very good.
Was that
Was it
here?
last year?
Yeah.
Where we separated
Yeah.
into groups and
Yeah.
discovered whose personality type?
Leadership styles.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Yeah, I thought it was very good too.
Oh, did you like it? Fine.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we use school boards again. They have a list of criteria, or a list of things, that different offerings. I'll let the board president, vice president, why don't they'll pick that. We'll find the location, and why don't we prepare, Joanne will send us out with some dates from the third week in September to October. Let's see if we can pinpoint a date that works for hopefully everybody. Does that sound fair to everybody?
Sounds good.
Can I just ask that it not be on the 20th? If that's, I mean, if
20th
if that's the day that has to be, I can't make it.
20th of what?
September.
Not a problem.
So we'll keep it on Tuesday night. Tuesday night works good?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll check with school boards for their availability and then check.
If anyone has any suggestions on a new place to go,
Send it my way.
send it in.
Public comment.
All right, we have set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to make a comment at this time, please step forward and address the board. Seeing that we have no takers, we will move forward. We already did our clerk pro tem.
Yep.
Do we need to do this?
Are we going into executive session?
Do you want to postpone that, or do you want
I do believe we should postpone it.
to? I have not posted that, so you want to postpone that? There's no need to go, and Andy's questions have been resolved.
Yep,
Yeah.
so we don't need to go into executive for that.
Are we still on additional items, or?
What
Sorry.
passed, we went through public comment on number 11. We have moved our executive session.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or discussion that we need to have at this time? All right. May I please have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. Have a lovely evening.
Before you all leave, if I could get your signature on the tax warrants.
Good catch, man.
Yeah.